Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the XL Center in Hartford, Connecticut. And Monday Night Raw tonight, boring show it was. The show was terrible, in my opinion. But tonight on the show, we had two Money in the Bank qualifying matches. We had Becky Lynch versus Sonya Deville. And we also had Zoey Stark versus Natalya. So both of them were Money in the Bank qualifying matches. We saw Gunther versus Kevin Owens, which in my opinion was the best match on the show. This could have easily been a match that we would see on a premium live event. So we also saw Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura. We had Indus take on Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. You already know who won that match. And the main event. The World Heavyweight Championship was on the line for the first time. Seth Rollins defended the title against Damian Priest. But overall, Monday Night Raw, very boring, terrible show it was. But before I get into the review, if you guys haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier today, did a movie review of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. So if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely give it a watch. So that is up. Also, my review of Raiders of the Lost Ark is up. My review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse also up. So check out those videos if you guys haven't seen them. But before I get into the review, news came out before Monday Night Raw tonight. And Vince McMahon was reportedly backstage at Monday Night Raw tonight. So you could tell that he was in Gorilla, calling the show. So this show reeked of a Vince McMahon show. But that was a little news, that came out before Monday Night Raw, showing that Vince was backstage at Raw tonight. And also there were a lot of other WWE executives present at the show tonight. So that was pretty much the news. But let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with the World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins made his way out. The crowd there in Hartford were singing to his theme music. So Rollins then listened to the crowd sing his theme song for a bit. The lights were down and he had a spotlight on him. And then Rollins ended up welcoming them to Monday Night Rollins. Rollins wanted to say that being World Heavyweight Champion has been a non-stop party. He wondered when was the last time we had a World Heavyweight Championship match on Monday Night Raw. Rollins then wanted to say that he had to go way back. He kept saying that it's been nearly 2 years since a world title was defended on Raw. Of course, the title's held by Roman Reigns. That was the last time that we had a world title defended on Raw in nearly 2 years. So Rollins ended up saying that he thought 2 years was too damn long. Rollins ended up saying that he went into the Twitterverse and put out an open challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship tonight in Hartford. So that open challenge was answered by Damian Priest. So the crowd ended up booing Priest's name. Rollins ended up saying that he's kind of psyched to face Priest. He ended up saying last week, he said he wanted all the fight and wanted to fight the best. You know what I'm saying? Whether you love or hate them, Dominic, Rhea Ripley, Baszler, and Damian Priest are as good as it gets. Rollins ended up saying that he's looking forward to the opportunity to show that as good as they aren't him. So Rollins ended up calling himself a visionary. So then we had Damian Priest and Finn Balor. They end up coming out, no Dominic, no Rhea Ripley. So Damian Priest walked out alongside Balor. Rollins ended up asking why the both of them are interrupting him when he was saying nice things about Priest and Balor. So Rollins was like, oh, where's Dominic? Where's Rhea? Rollins ended up asking if they're going to attack him from behind. So Priest and Balor got into the ring. Priest got on the mic. He ended up saying that Rhea and Dom have their own business. And he ended up saying that Rollins should only worry about him. Rollins then ended up asking if Priest and Balor do everything together. Rollins was like, oh, does Balor hold the door open for Priest to go to the bathroom? So Balor ended up saying that Rollins is the funny man with all the jokes. He ended up saying that everyone loves Rollins and sings his theme song. So Balor ended up saying what the crowd isn't going to love, as well as Rollins, is when Priest beats him and takes the World Heavyweight Championship later on tonight. So Priest ended up saying that he thinks Rollins is a deserving champion. And he admits that. He ended up saying that his resume speaks for itself. So he ended up saying in Rollins' career, he's beaten them all. But so has him. Priest then ended up saying that Rollins has a set for issuing an open challenge, to which he ended up respecting that. So Priest ended up saying that he doesn't need Dom, Rhea, or Balor to win the title. Rollins ended up saying that he likes the confidence, but if it's just the two of them out here tonight, Priest won't stand a chance. So then Rollins ended up asking Priest to put his mouth where his mouth is. He ended up saying, tonight for the World Heavyweight Championship, Priest needs to leave his crew in the back. He ended up saying that it's best to leave the Prince in Balor in the back, since he doesn't fare too well in fights with him. So Balor ended up taking exception to that, but Priest ended up saying he's cool with it. So Priest ended up accepting that. So Rollins ended up cackling. Priest then ended up saying that he'll be the new World Heavyweight Champion at the end of the night. So he ended up saying that Rollins will go down in history with one of the shortest reigns ever. So Rollins ended up cackling. He ended up saying that his title reign was already longer than Balor's ever was. Of course, Rollins was referencing when Baszler won the Universal Championship, and Balor's run as the Universal Champion only lasted 24 hours. At SummerSlam 2016. So pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But overall, it was an okay segment to open Monday Night Raw tonight. With Seth Rollins coming out there, the whole setup for him versus Damian Priest later on. So it was okay. And then we had the first match of the night, which was a Money in the Bank qualifying match, Becky Lynch versus Sonya Deville. So we had Becky Lynch end up coming out first, and then Sonya Deville was accompanied by Chelsea Green. We had a pre-tape promo shown with Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. So Sonya Deville ended up telling Becky Lynch to get ready to lose because big changes are coming. So then the match got underway, which the match itself was okay, in my opinion. It wasn't great or perfect by any means. But we had Chelsea Green end up beginning to distract Becky Lynch as the bell rang. so she was distracting her from the apron. Becky Lynch ended up sidestepping a blindside attack from Sonya Deville. So Sonya Deville ended up stopping to not hit Chelsea Green. Becky Lynch ended up taking it to Sonya Deville with some elbows, and then Green ended up distracting Becky again. So Sonya Deville took upon the distraction, and she ended up blindsiding Becky and started to attack her. Sonya ended up applying a chin lock, but Becky ended up firing up. Sonya Deville ended up knocking Becky back, but Becky came back and elbowed and booted Sonya Deville. Becky Lynch connected with a pair of clotheslines, which was followed up by a heel kick. Becky then ended up hitting a running forearm in the corner to Sonya Deville before she ended up hitting a Bexploder. Sonya Deville ended up sidestepping an avalanche in the corner from Becky, but Becky ended up elbowing Sonya and ended up hitting a springboard crossbody block, to which she ended up going for the cover, and Sonya Deville ended up kicking out. And then Trish Stratus ended up walking out to the stage alongside Zoey Stark. So Becky Lynch was looking at Trish Stratus. Sonya Deville ended up trying to roll Becky up, but Becky ended up connecting with a reverse DDT. Sonya Deville then rolled out of the ring to recover. Trish Stratus and Zoey Stark ended up staying at the top of the ramp, so they ended up looking on. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Sonya Deville ended up hitting Becky Lynch with a superplex, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Becky kicked out. Trish Stratus and Zoey Stark were still on the ramp. They were speaking to each other. Becky and Sonya ended up getting to their feet. They were exchanging punches. Becky ended up hitting some forearms and a diving clothesline to Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville rolled out of the ring to recover. Becky Lynch ended up hitting Sonya Deville with a baseball slide. She ended up throwing Deville back to the ring. So the referee was checking on Sonya Deville, and that led to Chelsea Green delivering a big boot to Becky down at ringside. Chelsea Green ended up putting Becky in the ring. Sonya Deville then ended up leveling Becky with a kick to her face. So Sonya Deville ended up going for the cover, and Becky ended up kicking out. Sonya Deville then pulled Becky up to her feet. She ended up pushing her. Becky Lynch ended up fighting back, and she hit Enziguri to Sonya Deville. She then charged at Sonya Deville in the corner, but Deville ended up putting Becky on the apron. Becky ended up knocking Sonya Deville back. Chelsea Green got on the apron, and Becky ended up knocking Chelsea Green down to ringside. Becky Lynch then ended up attacking Chelsea Green, ended up sending Chelsea into the barricade a few times. Sonya Deville ended up trying to attack Becky from behind, but Becky ended up cutting Sonya Deville off, and she sent Sonya into the barricade. Becky then ended up getting Sonya Deville in the ring. She ended up going for the manhandle slam, but Sonya Deville countered that into a roll-up, to which Becky kicked out. Becky then applied the disarmor. She attempted to apply the disarmor, but Sonya Deville ended up fighting out of it. She ended up pulling Becky into the ropes, throw first. Sonya Deville ended up rolling Becky up. She ended up putting her feet on the ropes, and Chelsea Green ended up holding on Sonya Deville's legs on the ropes, and Becky still ended up kicking out. Sonya Deville then ended up delivering some strikes to Becky. Sonya Deville ended up coming off the rope, and Becky ended up catching Sonya. Sonya Deville ended up finally leaving Becky's feet, and she was planted with the manhandle slam by Becky. She ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Becky ended up winning the match. So overall, it was an okay match. It wasn't great or perfect by any means. So Becky is now in the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So we saw Becky end up shouting at Trish Stratus and Zoey Stark, but both Stratus and Stark looked unfazed about, Becky Lynch shouting at them. So pretty much that was basically that. And then we had Byron Saxton. Byron Saxton was backstage with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. Sami Zayn ended up saying that he's not the guy to say, "I told you so." but it's nice to see the Usos do what they should have done. He ended up saying, actually, Jimmy did. And it remains to be seen what Jay does. He ended up saying, still, the bloodline is not their problem. And then we hear Ludwig Kaiser going, gentlemen. So Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci end up walking up to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens ended up saying that they broke the unwritten rule of interrupting when their name wasn't called. And then we get the Intercontinental Champion, Gunther, end up walking up. He ended up saying that Kevin Owens has no discipline and that he'll teach Owens discipline. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he doesn't care that Gunther has a problem with his temper. So Owens ended up saying that people are waiting to see him kick someone's ass. And Gunther is that guy. So Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn end up making their way to the ring. So Kevin Owens was pretty much challenging Gunther to a match. So then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, the match was then made official. So it was Kevin Owens versus Gunther. So we had Sami Zayn out there. We had Vinci and Kaiser also out there. This was the best match of the night, in my opinion. Kevin Owens and Gunther delivered a very good, entertaining match here. The crowd was into it. This was at the level of a premium live event match. But very good match this was. So both guys ended up locking up. Gunther shoved Kevin Owens off, and he powered Owens to the corner. So Owens ended up charging at Gunther. Gunther ended up applying a headlock to Owens and ended up hitting a takeover. Owens fought up. He ended up going to whip Gunther off. Gunther ended up holding on. He ended up bringing Owens down to a knee by clinching in a side headlock. Owens ended up whipping Gunther off, but Gunther ended up delivering a shoulder tackle to Owens. So Gunther ended up wrenching Kevin Owens' arm. Owens got to the ropes. Owens then ended up decking Gunther with a right hand. He applied a side headlock. Gunther ended up whipping Owens off. Owens ended up going for a shoulder tackle. Owens ended up punching Gunther to the corner. Gunther then cut the momentum off, and Owens ended up ducking a chop from Gunther. He ended up chopping Gunther's chest. So Owens hit the ropes. Gunther ended up delivering a big boot to Owens, and then he followed up with a German suplex to Owens. Owens then rolled out of the ring to recover. Gunther ended up going to the outside to retrieve Owens, but Owens ended up kicking Gunther. He also delivered a chop to Gunther. Gunther ended up booting Owens and ended up smashing Kevin Owens' head into the LED barricade. Gunther then ended up hitting a back suplex onto the apron to Owens. Owens then ended up holding his neck. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw what happened during the commercial break where Kevin Owens ended up going for a Swanton Bomb to Gunther, but Gunther ended up getting his knees up. So we saw Kevin Owens then end up kicking out of a pinfall attempt by Gunther. Gunther started taunting Sami Zayn at ringside. Owens then ended up punching back at Gunther. He hit the ropes, but Gunther ended up countering with a scoop slam to Owens. Gunther then put his feet around Owens' head, and he ended up hitting a neck twister. Owens then wreathed on the mat in pain. Gunther then dug his boot into Owens' face. He then applied a neck vice, and he started screaming at Owens. Sami Zayn started pounding the mat to try to get Owens back up into the match. Owens then ended up punching out of the neck vice, but Gunther ended up crushing Owens with a big boot. So Gunther ended up going for the cover, to which Owens kicked out at 1. Owens ended up popping up, and he ended up punching Gunther. Gunther quickly ended up leveling Owens with a big boot. So Gunther ended up delivering some strikes to Owens. Gunther ended up getting Owens to his feet. Owens started stumbling, and then he ended up hitting a forearm to Gunther. Gunther ended up knocking Owens back, and he delivered a vicious chop to Kevin Owens' chest. Gunther then applied a Boston Crab. He was stepping on Owens' neck. Owens ended up trying to claw to the ropes, but Gunther rolled Owens into a crossface. Owens fought up, and he elbowed out of the crossface. Owens then ended up hitting a chop to Gunther, but Gunther ended up taking Owens down with a big chop to Owens' chest. You know, those chops by Gunther are just loud, and they echo throughout the arena. So Gunther ended up going for a suplex to Owens. Owens fought out of that attempt. Gunther ended up getting out of a fisherman suplex. He ended up taking Kevin Owens down with a lariat. Gunther then pulled Owens up to his feet. He ended up hitting a short arm clothesline. Gunther pulled Kevin Owens up to his feet. Owens then absorbed a clothesline to Gunther. Gunther ended up quickly flooring Owens with a German suplex onto his neck and shoulders. Owens then popped up and he ended up delivering a German suplex to Gunther. So Owens and Gunther slowly got to their feet. They were exchanging some forearms. Gunther ended up decking Owens with a chop, and then he delivered a stomp to the back of Owens' head. So we had Owens delivering 2 super kicks to Gunther. It sent Gunther to his knees. Owens ended up hitting a 3rd super kick that sent Gunther into the corner. Owens then ended up hitting a cannonball into the corner to Gunther. He ended up going for the cover, to which Gunther kicked out. So Owens was waiting for Gunther to get up. He ended up going for the stunner, but Gunther countered that with a sleeper hold. Owens ended up rolling out of that, but Gunther ended up delivering a front drop kick to Owens. Gunther set up for a powerbomb, but Owens ended up fighting out of that. Both guys started exchanging blows before Owens ended up hitting a devastating Fisherman's Buster to Gunther, to which he ended up going for the cover, and Gunther kicked out. So later on, Gunther ended up going for a top rope dive. Owens ended up getting his knees up. Owens ended up going up to the top rope. He connected with the Swanton, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Gunther kicked out. And the crowd couldn't believe it. Neither did Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. So, like I said, the crowd was really into this match. I mean, this was great. Owens then sized Gunther up. Giovanni Vinci got on the apron, and Sami Zayn ended up pulling Vinci down. Ludwig Kaiser ended up running over to help Vinci, but Owens ended up getting out of the ring. Kaiser and Owens got into the ring. Owens ended up hitting Kaiser with a stunner, and then Gunther then rolled Kevin Owens up and said, there you go. Gunther ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a very good match. This was a great match. Very entertaining. The wrestling here from both Kevin Owens and Gunther was just absolutely great. This was the best match of the night. And I would like to see another match between Owens and Gunther at some point. I mean, this match was premium live event or pay-per-view worthy match. Quality match it was. But very good match. And then we saw Kathy Kelly. Kathy Kelly was backstage with Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle ended up telling Kathy Kelly that he's tired of seeing Gunther cheat week after week. He kept saying that if he didn't have Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, he wouldn't be as successful. So then Vinci and Kaiser end up coming up to Matt Riddle. Kaiser ended up saying that he is furious that Riddle is talking about the ring general that way. So Vinci and Kaiser end up trying to attack Riddle, but Riddle ended up sending Kaiser over some production crates. Riddle then locked in the ankle lock on Vinci. Officials and refs had to pull Riddle away. So Kaiser ended up coming on to check on Vinci, and pretty much that was basically that. And then we saw Byron Saxton. He was backstage with Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, the women's tag team champions. Byron Saxton ended up asking them what it means to be a champion. Baszler ended up telling Byron that this is destiny, and that her and Ronda dreamed this up years ago, before they were done with the Octagon. MMA, UFC. Ronda Rousey ended up saying that they're going to legitimize the titles. No, they are not. Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey are not going to legitimize the titles because no one cares. When Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey won the women's tag team titles, I bet you no one gave a fuck. She kept saying any team with the proverbial stones to step up to them will be destroyed. And so we saw the debut, finally, of Katana Chance and Kayden Carter. They were down in NXT. Both of them are great in the ring. They're a good tag team. They are a legit tag team. So Katana and Kayden walked up to them. They introduced themselves to Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. They ended up saying that they want their Raw debuts to be against the baddest team on the planet. To which Ronda was like, oh, do we land in Munchkin Land? She ended up saying being in Connecticut is bad enough. Ronda ended up saying that she admires their stupidity. To which Baszler ended up saying that they're ignorant, but they'll wake up when their tendons are being twisted. To which Ronda ended up saying that this will be a baptism by fire. So then Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler made their way down to the ring for the match. So then we got the match as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Kayden Carter and Katana Chance. This was a showcase match for Kayden and Katana to let people know, how they work in the ring together. I love Kayden Carter and Katana Chance. Since, they were in NXT. They were former NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. So Shayna Baszler and Kayden Carter started off the match. Both women end up locking up. Baszler ended up powering Kayden to the corner. Baszler ended up backing Kayden into the corner again. And Kayden ended up turning Shayna Baszler around. She ended up tripping her up. Kayden ended up rolling Shayna up, but Baszler ended up pushing Kayden off. Kayden Carter ended up hitting a springboard drop kick to Shayna Baszler. So Katana Chance ended up tagging in. She ended up tripping Baszler, and then she ended up hitting a slingshot senton, and she ended up going for the cover, to which Baszler kicked out. Baszler then stumbled to the corner. Ronda Rousey ended up tagging in. The crowd ended up loudly booing at Ronda. Ronda ended up kicking Kayden down. She ended up hitting Katana Chance with a throw. Ronda then ended up lifting Kayden, but Katana ended up kicking her. Ronda ended up knocking Kayden out of the ring. She ended up kneeing Katana in the corner. She applied an armbar over the ropes to Katana. Kayden Carter then super kicked Ronda from ringside, and then she ended up hitting a crossbody block off the top rope to the floor on Shayna Baszler. Katana then ended up hitting Ronda with a corkscrew plancha. So Shayna Baszler then snapped Katana Chance's arm off the ropes as the ref was checking on Ronda. So Ronda ended up taking Katana down, and she ended up tagging in Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler ended up hitting a sliding knee for a near fall. Baszler then ended up stretching Katana's injured arm, and she ended up stomping on it. So Baszler ended up clubbing the back of Katana Chance, ended up sending her into the corner. So Katana ended up booting Shayna Baszler back. She ended up kicking Ronda off the apron. So Katana then ended up flipping through a back suplex from Shayna Baszler, and she ended up tagging in Kayden Carter. Kayden Carter ended up hitting a forearm and then a running forearm to Shayna Baszler. Kayden ended up hitting a drop kick. She ended up rolling Shayna Baszler up and hitting a super kick. Kayden ended up hitting a running boot against the ropes to Shayna Baszler. So we had Kayden Carter end up hitting a modified pile driver to Shayna Baszler, to which she ended up going for the cover, and Baszler ended up kicking out. So Baszler ended up elbowing Kayden, tagged back in Ronda. Ronda went for Piper's Pit, and Katana ended up blind tagging in. Kayden ended up sliding off. She ended up sidestepping Ronda to put her into the ring post, shoulder first. Katana ended up tagging in. Katana ended up kicking Shayna Baszler off the apron. And then both Katana Chance and Katie Carter ended up hitting Ronda with the after party. Shayna Baszler then pulled Katana Chance off Ronda. So she ended up breaking up the pin. So at the end of the match, we had Shayna Baszler end up applying the care for the clutch to Kayden Carter. And Kayden Carter ended up tapping out. So there you go. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler ended up winning the match. So we have Kayden Carter and Katana Chance make their debut, the main roster debut on Raw, and then they lose the match on their first night. But overall, it was just a showcase match to show people who Kayden Carter and Katana Chance are and how, they are in the ring, how they work so good together. Pretty much that was that. And then we had Ricochet. Ricochet was warming up backstage. Bronson Reed walked up to Ricochet. He ended up saying that he beat him 2 weeks ago. But somehow, he's still in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Ricochet ended up saying that he won his match last week. And he ended up saying to Bronson Reed, "Oh, Shinsuke Nakamura ended your undefeated streak." To which Nakamura walked up. He ended up saying that he beat Bronson Reed, even though he thinks he dominated him. Bronson Reed then walked off. Ricochet ended up saying that he respects what Nakamura did last week, but he won't take it easy on him tonight. So then Ricochet made his way out, and then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had a video package from Johnny Gargano, to which Johnny Gargano ended up saying that his story is just getting started. So pretty much that was basically that, from Johnny Gargano. And then we had Ricochet versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And the match was just meh, in my opinion. Nakamura started off the match, and he applied a side headlock on Ricochet. Ricochet ended up whipping Nakamura off, but Nakamura ended up delivering a shoulder tackle to Ricochet. Nakamura then hit the ropes. Ricochet then ended up hitting an arm drag to Nakamura. Nakamura ended up blocking a kick. He ended up elbowing Ricochet in the face. Ricochet then responded with a drop kick to Nakamura's face. He ended up going for a suicide dive, but Nakamura ended up cutting Ricochet off, and he delivered a kick to Ricochet's face. Nakamura ended up going to the second rope, and Ricochet ended up kicking Nakamura in the face and knocked him out to the floor. Ricochet then connected with the Frosby flop, and then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Nakamura ended up kneeing Ricochet in his ribs. He ended up going for an inverse exploder, but Ricochet landed on his feet. Ricochet then took Nakamura down with a headspring back elbow. He then blocked the punch and shoved Nakamura into the corner. Ricochet then ended up hitting a run shoulder to Nakamura's midsection, and he kicked him in the face. He then ended up hitting the springboard clothesline, which was followed up by the standing shooting star press, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Nakamura kicked out. Nakamura then ducked the kick from Ricochet, and Nakamura went for a kick to Ricochet, and Ricochet ducked that. Ricochet soon ended up hitting a rebound kick, which sent Nakamura down to the corner. Ricochet then hit an avalanche, and Ricochet ended up trying again to do the avalanche, but Nakamura ended up moving. Nakamura then ended up kneeing Ricochet in his ribs. He ended up digging his boot into Ricochet's face. Nakamura had Ricochet on the ropes. He ended up hitting a snap German suplex to Ricochet. Ricochet then responded back with a backflip drop kick, and Nakamura then flattened Ricochet with a kick. So Nakamura ended up hitting an inverted exploder suplex to Ricochet. Ricochet then kneed Nakamura as Nakamura attempted to hit Ricochet with a Kinshasa. Then Ricochet ended up hitting the recoil to Nakamura. Ricochet then head up to the top rope. Nakamura cut Ricochet off. Ricochet then ended up pointing at something. And then Ricochet jumped over Bronson Reed. And we had Bronson Reed end up avalanching Nakamura in the corner. The ref called for the bell, so the match ended in a no contest. So Bronson Reed ended up putting Ricochet on his back. He ended up hitting a senton splash on Nakamura. Reed then ended up crushing Ricochet. He ended up going to the top rope, and Bronson Reed delivered the tsunami to Ricochet. And pretty much that was basically that. Overall, just a very meh match this was. And then we saw Chad Gable, Otis, and Maxine Dupree. They were backstage. Gable ended up saying that Otis is the reason that they're all together. Maxine ended up saying that she doesn't understand why the Viking creeps are after them. So Gable ended up telling his #1 guy to study up on Viking research. To which Otis ended up saying that they're going to take them out with some deodorant. Otis ended up saying that he will teach the pretty lady to take on the Viking lady. Of course, Valhalla. Chad Gable ended up saying that Maxine can't fight in what she's wearing. Maxine ended up saying that she had the perfect outfit. And then she ended up walking off. So pretty much that was basically that. But we all know we're going to get a match, with Valhalla, Maxine Dupree. Or they could do, the Alpha Academy and Maxine Dupree versus the Viking Raiders, in Valhalla. That's where I see this going. Do I care? No. Moving on. We had Miz TV. Oh, joy. Oh, joy. So the Miz was in the ring. He welcomed everyone to Miz TV. He ended up saying that he needed a big guest that was worthy of a night like tonight. Miz then introduced Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes ended up coming out to the ring. Of course, the crowd singing along to his song. You get the whoa. So then a Cody chant ended up picking up. Miz ended up asking if they should start. And the crowd started chanting yes. Miz ended up saying that Cody looks dashing tonight. Of course, reference, when Cody was, with the dashing gimmick and how he was saying, oh, you could look dashing. Like that. Early Cody Rhodes. This was 2011, Cody, when Cody, wore the face mask, down to the ring for his matches. You could look dashing. So Miz ended up saying that he wants to talk about what Cody said last week. He ended up saying that Cody challenged Brock, who beat him at Night of Champions, and broke his arm, and challenged him to show up at any city he's in and fight. He ended up saying to Cody, do you think that's kind of stupid? To which Cody ended up saying to The Miz, oh, that's a fast question. So Cody ended up calling Miz Mike, by his first name. So Miz was like to him, oh, in this ring, I'm The Miz. First name, The, last name, Miz. So then the crowd started chanting Mike. Cody ended up saying that he hasn't heard it called stupid yet. He ended up saying that it's been called crazy. And he ended up saying that it takes balls, something Miz knows a little about. He ended up saying that the Beast is on his annual hibernation, so we won't be seeing him for a while. So the Miz ended up saying, oh, that's too bad. He ended up saying on Miz TV, they love drama and controversy. So Miz ended up saying that he has a surprise for Cody, and that surprise is better than Brock Lesnar. He ended up saying, since Cody has a storied family tradition, he wants to bring out another man who shares the same pressures as a multi-generational talent. He ended up saying that this guy is arguably the hottest superstar in WWE. So Miz ended up introducing Dominic Mysterio. So Dominic made his way out. He was accompanied by the SmackDown Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. So Cody looked confused. So Miz ended up dancing to Dom's music. So the crowd was chanting, "You suck," to Dom. So Miz ended up going to speak, but Rhea Ripley silenced Miz. She ended up saying that Dom has something he would like to say. Rhea then handed Dom the mic. Dom ended up going to speak, and the crowd booed the hell out of Dom. So Miz ended up screaming to the crowd to let Dom talk. So the crowd started booing louder, and Cody ended up sarcastically telling the crowd not to boo Dom. So Rhea Ripley ended up saying that the crowd need to let her Latino heat speak. So Dom ended up speaking, and the boos got louder, which you could tell that it was piped in boos. Someone in the WWE production truck cranked that booed noise to freaking 11. And I'm like, we're not in the Thunderdome anymore with the piped in crowd noises. It's stupid when WWE puts in piped in crowd noises and the crowd is not booing or cheering. And they're just sitting there like, you see some people like cheering, but half the time people are just sitting on their hands like, and then you hear the piped in crowd noises. It looks stupid. So Dom ended up saying that he's done hard time. He ended up saying that Cody is just a little birdie with a broken wing. So Dom ended up saying that he watched Cody rattle off a bunch of crappy towns Lesnar can find him in. So Dom ended up saying that it hit him that Cody is a bad father and that he has a baby girl and that he should be home taking care of her. But instead, he's here. So Dom ended up saying that Cody is just like his father, Ray, a deadbeat dad. So Cody got to his feet. Cody ended up saying that he has a ton of empathy for Dom. He ended up saying that 15 minutes he spent in prison was hard on him. He ended up saying that Dom has a worse prison tattoo than he does. He ended up saying after prison, he went to a match at WrestleMania with his father, but it wasn't really a match. Cody ended up saying that match at WrestleMania between Ray and Dom was a public spanking for Dom. Cody ended up saying that he is not perfect, and Ray probably isn't. He ended up saying that Ray made some terrible mistakes, but Cody is looking at one. So then Dom and Rhea end up going to leave the ring. Cody turned around to put the mic down. Dom then snuck up and slapped Cody in the face. And then Dom hid behind Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley started smiling as Dom started taunting Cody. And Rhea was like to Cody, "Come on, hit me." So then Rhea Ripley and Dom walked off. And we had Miz look like he was like, "Oh, what just happened?" So then Cody looked at Dom and Rhea. He ended up looking angry. Cody then turned around and he knocked the Miz out with his cast. And pretty much that was that. Overall, very meh segment this was. This led to nothing for Cody. Absolutely nothing. So then we had Zoey Stark versus Natalya. Money in the Bank qualifying match. Boring match this was. Zoey Stark quickly got Natalya in the corner, ended up attacking her with some strikes. Natalya came back with a roll-up on Stark, to which Stark ended up kicking out at 1. Natalya then applied a waistlock and took Stark down with a hammerlock. Stark fought up, but Natalya ended up taking Stark down. Natalya then applied a side headlock, but Stark ended up whipping Natalya off. Natalya then slingshotted over Zoey Stark, but she ended up tweaking her knee. Stark then took Natalya down, ended up attacking Natalya's knee. So Stark ended up hitting a leg DDT to Natalya. So Natalya ended up throwing Stark off, ended up elbowing her back. Natalya then booted Stark and ended up hitting a German suplex. Natalya then connected with a jackknife pin, to which Stark ended up kicking out at 2. Natalya quickly ended up applying a sharpshooter to Stark. So Stark ended up making it to the bottom rope. Trish Stratus ended up pulling Stark out of the ring. Natalya then ended up hitting a baseball slide, and she ended up getting Stark in the ring. So we had Trish Stratus end up kicking Natalya in her injured knee. Stark then ended up attacking Natalya and ended up hitting the Z360. So Stark ended up going for the cover. So there you go. Zoey Stark ended up winning the match. Zoey Stark is going to be in the Women's Money in the Bank. But overall, boring match this was. So then we saw Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman was backstage. He was cordially inviting everyone to watch this Friday on SmackDown as the family drama plays out. He ended up saying that Jey Uso will make his historic choice. He ended up saying, as the wise man, he's tasked with sometimes delivering bad news, even if it's to the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman ended up saying that the news is not pleasant. He ended up saying that Jey Uso will make his choice this Friday, and Jey will choose and stand by his brother, Solo Sikoa. He ended up saying, you can share a womb with your twin, Jimmy, but you'll never be closer to life to him than you are to your tribal chief, Roman Reigns. So Paul Heyman ended up saying that this Friday, live on SmackDown, Jey Uso will acknowledge that fact. So Paul Heyman wiped his hands, and he then said, or else. So pretty much that was that. Paul Heyman was just there to promote SmackDown for Friday with the drama between, Jey Uso and, the whole thing with the Bloodline and Solo Sikoa. So that was that. And then we had Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin versus Indus. The match never got underway because Sanga attacked Shelton Benjamin. Veer ended up hitting Cedric Alexander with the $1 Million Arm clothesline. So Veer and Sanga end up hitting Cedric Alexander with a sidewalk slam diving leg drop combo. And pretty much that was that. Match never got started. Moving on. The main event. Damian Priest versus Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. And this was a good match. This was the first televised defense of the World Heavyweight Championship. So both Priest and Rollins end up circling the ring. They locked up. Priest ended up quickly powering Rollins into the corner. So Rollins then ended up pushing Priest back, started punching him. Priest then ended up throwing Rollins into the corner, but Rollins ended up sidestepping Priest, ended up punching Priest down, ended up chopping him. Priest ended up trying to whip Rollins into the opposite corner, but Rollins ended up stopping. Rollins ended up going to the apron to avoid an avalanche from Priest. Rollins countered a shoulder with a leap and then a leg drop to knock Priest out of the ring. Rollins then ended up coming off the apron with a flying knee to Priest's head. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Priest ended up punching Rollins back. Priest ended up sending Rollins into the ropes, but he ended up lowering his head, and he ended up eating a kick from Rollins. So Priest ended up charging at Rollins because Rollins was challenging Priest to come at him. Rollins ended up pulling the top rope down to get Priest out of the ring. Priest ended up kneeing Rollins at ringside. He ended up putting him on his shoulder. Rollins slid off of Priest's shoulder. He ended up sending Priest into the ring post. Rollins ended up charging, but Priest ended up hitting a back body drop to Rollins into the timekeeper's area. Rollins then ended up landing on his feet. Rollins then ended up jumping to the top of the barricade, and he ended up leaping from the barricade, but Priest ended up forearming Rollins out of midair. Priest ended up following Rollins into the ring. He ended up grabbing Rollins by his hair. Priest shoved Rollins into the corner, started punching and kicking him down. So Priest was taunting the crowd. He started choking Rollins on the ropes. Priest then put Rollins into the corner, started punching him, and he ended up whipping him into the opposite corner, and he ended up going for the cover, to which Rollins ended up kicking out. Priest then applied a chin lock to Rollins. Rollins fought up, and Priest ended up powering him down. Rollins ended up fighting out, ended up hitting the ropes. Priest ended up connected with a back elbow to Rollins, to which he ended up going for the cover, to which Rollins kicked out at 1. So Rollins then ended up punching Priest in the head 3 times. He started chopping and punching him into the ropes. He then hit a clothesline to Priest, but Priest was still standing. Rollins ended up trying to clothesline Priest again. Priest started to stagger. Rollins ended up kicking Priest, ended up kneeing him in the face. He ended up finally taking Priest down with a clothesline. Rollins then avalanched Priest in the corner before he ended up hitting a backbreaker. Rollins ended up going to the top rope for a frog splash, but Priest ended up moving. Priest ended up going for a kick, but Priest then avalanched Rollins in the corner. So Priest ended up trying to avalanche Rollins again. Rollins ended up kicking Priest, ended up going for the pedigree, to which Priest fought out of that. So Rollins ended up rolling Priest up, and Priest ended up kicking out. Rollins immediately followed up with the sling blade. Priest then rolled out of the ring to recover. Rollins ended up going for a suicide dive, but Priest ended up catching Rollins, and Priest ended up hitting the flatliner to Rollins on the commentary table. And then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rollins was going for a sunset flip powerbomb off the top rope to Priest, but Priest ended up knocking Rollins back. Rollins ended up stunning Priest with a strike. Rollins was setting up for a superplex, but Priest ended up fighting out of it. Priest then ended up punching Rollins away. He ended up setting up for a dive. Rollins ended up quickly scaling the ropes, and he did end up hitting a superplex. And Priest ended up trying to fight the Falcon Arrow, but Rollins ended up fighting it. He ended up hitting a Falcon Arrow to Priest, to which he ended up going for the cover, and Priest ended up kicking out. So we had Rollins ended up hitting Priest with a suicide dive. Rollins immediately got back to the ring. He ended up hitting a second suicide dive. Priest was still standing. Rollins got into the ring. He sent Priest over the commentary table with a third suicide dive. Rollins ended up getting Priest in the ring, and he ended up catching him with a super kick. Rollins ended up going to the top rope. He ended up hitting the frog splash to Priest, to which he ended up going for the cover, and Priest kicked out. So at the end of the match, we had Rollins and Priest on the apron. Priest ended up going for a kick. Rollins then jumped off the apron. Rollins pulled Priest down, ended up hitting the buckle bomb into the barricade, which was crazy. So Priest ended up clutching his shoulder in pain. Then all of a sudden, Finn Balor appeared at ringside. Rollins then super kicked Balor down. Rollins ended up getting to the ring. He ended up going for the stomp, but Priest ended up turning Rollins inside out with a clothesline. Priest then ended up hitting the South of Heaven. He ended up going for the cover, to which Rollins kicked out. Priest got to his feet. He looked down at Balor at ringside, and Priest was wondering what Balor was doing out there. Priest ended up holding his shoulder in pain. He set up for the crucifix bomb. Rollins slid off. He ended up super kicking Priest down before hitting a forearm. Rollins ended up hitting an elbow to Priest's back of Priest's neck. And then Rollins followed up with a stomp to Priest, and he ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Seth Rollins ended up winning the match, retaining the World Heavyweight Championship. Post-match, Balor got into the ring. He stared at Rollins. They ended up going face to face. And then that's how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, this was a very good main event between Priest and Rollins. Obviously, we all knew that Seth was going to retain the title. But overall, just a boring Monday Night Raw this was. Just absolutely terrible. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Be sure to check out my previous videos, my movie reviews of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I will see you all Wednesday night for AEW Dynamite. So, see you all then.